All right, you guys, we are getting started today. My name is Amber from Life Force Wellness Center, and today we are going to talk about the gut brain connection and how it influences our health and our life. So, this is a long overdue talk. I did this talk at a wellness conference not too long ago, and it is something that really not a lot of people have understood, and now we're just now learning, and there's so much research coming out on how the gut and the brain, they actually are connected, and we're going to talk more about that. So the things that we're going to learn today is how the gut and the brain communicate, why the gut is called the second brain, why it's important to nourish the gut microbiome if you want better health. And then we're also going to learn some powerful strategies to optimize your gut brain connection and health. So, have you ever had that gut feeling? Have you ever had the butterflies when you were nervous? Or have you ever felt sick to your stomach from like bad news? I'll tell you, one of the first times that I ever really remember having something crazy happen was when I first watched, when I went into the military. I was a veterinarian technician, and they took a military working dog and put it to sleep right in front of us. And then so anyways, it made me sick to my stomach. I immediately the things my eyes saw and my nose smelled immediately went to my gut and made me sick. And so that was some of the very first instances for me of something that was very powerful that hit me through my gut and the brain, which I now know my eyes are the brain on the outside. Thank you, Dr. Andrew Huberman, for that information. So if your gut was a person, if it was a friend, what kind of friend would it be? Would it be calm, supportive, or would it be chaotic and unpredictable? I know for myself, I currently have calm and supportive, but I suffered many years with chaotic and unpredictable gut digestion, everything, right? So, who am I? Why do I even care? And why do I do this? So, for me, um, I started out in the animal field. I kind of mentioned a little bit about my background in veterinary medicine, being in the United States Army, and then transitioning kind of into the people world and having my own issues with health, with gut, with brain, with all the things that we are going to talk about today, and then also my child. And watching him suffer and not realizing it came down to the choices that we made that we didn't even know were having such a major impact on our health. And so I do this work because I care. I have brought myself on a journey, and this journey has been of self-discovery and helping myself and helping others. So my body, my guts, my brain, they were all disconnected, discombobulated, and had disinformation, bad information. And so I suffered from digestive issues, depression, and fatigue on a very big scale. And I didn't understand everything that it tied into. And so we're going to really dive into this. I'm going to share a lot of personal stories because I know for a fact that this was one of the things once I started working on it and fixing it that made some of the biggest impacts in my life and in the work that I do. So, first thing I want to do is talk about what's happening in medicine right now. And I'm going to tell you, so I was an ultrasound tech for about 10 years, and worked for a few hospitals around here and outpatient centers. And then I also went to work at a pharmacy doing wellness. And so everything comes back to the information that we're getting. So I wanted to talk about things that I discovered that not one doctor ever talked to me about. And you think, well, bad doctor, and it's not the case. And here's why I want to tell you this. So we're just going to call this warp speed medicine because there's so much warp speed stuff going on right now. But according to the Journal of Biomedical Informatics and Health Education, there was a research paper that was written in 2011 that stated by the time a physician completes medical school, much of what they learned in year one was already outdated or revised. And they estimate that medical knowledge has doubled every 73 days. That's absolutely crazy. So, Dr. Peter Denson at University of Iowa stated the amount of medical knowledge is expanding so rapidly that it is impossible for any one individual to master it all. Medical education must focus on more on how to learn than what to learn. Right? We need to understand how to learn this new information. And so, what does all that mean? Well, many physicians may graduate from medical school already behind in the rapidly evolving fields like genomics, functional medicine, gut brain science, and neuroplasticity. These are all things that I really love. And traditional clinical education often overlooks some of these areas. So, unless that doctor takes his own initiative, maybe he has his own health problems, or maybe he has family that has, cognitive decline happening, or a genetic issue, or something like that, most of them are never even exposed to these very, very critical aspects of whole person health. And so, we're going to talk about how the brain and the mood and how your mood is controlled by your gut. And some of the things, like, think about this: 90% of your feel good serotonin, the thing that makes you happy, right? That feel good chemical, it's produced in the gut. So, why, when I was depressed, did they give me a pill that they said was going to help my brain? And really, all that Lexapro and Prozac and Elvil and all those other things I took, all it really did for me was make me just not give a shit. And I'm just going to be very, very blunt with that, because I didn't care what was happening. I didn't care about anything. I just, and, you know, and it just seems like that's how it goes with those kind of things. You just block things out until you just really don't care. And no way to live, right? No way to live. So the gut brain axis, it's actually like a two-way communication. It's a highway. So there's consistent or constant communication through a complex network of nerves, hormones, and immune signals. So a lot of people don't understand that there's a vagus nerve. I don't know if you know about the vagus nerve, and how that parasympathetic and sympathetic state all send signals back and forth, but it's like a superhighway. And so it sends these signals, and in our brain, the hypothalamus, pituitary, they're all sending signals. And your gut, it's sending signals from the microbiome that's on the inside, that gut bacteria. And if those gut bacteria are responsible for producing the serotonin and the GABA and the dopamine and all those things that give us that feel good or not feel so good. Um, those neurotransmitters, if they're not expressed by that good gut bacteria, then your brain doesn't get the signals. And so that emotional stress, right, of being sad all the time, of being depressed, of being feeling lonely, a lot of it is from poor gut function. And so it affects your mood and how you show up, your cognition. Can you remember? So just super, super important. And this leads into why the gut is called the second brain. Do you know that the gut has its own nervous system? This whole enteric nervous system has over 500 million neurons. That's right, neurons. The same that's in the brain is also in the gut, and there's over 500 million of those. So this enterogenic or enteric nervous system, excuse me, the enteric nervous system can operate independently of the gut, right? So when you get something in your gut, independently of the brain, when you get something gut-wise, it then starts affecting the brain and vice versa. 90 to 95% of the body's serotonin is produced in the gut. So your gut directly influences your mood, your memory, and your focus, your ability to focus. So as we progress through this, think of this. Think of any time that you've had intestinal distress, okay? Maybe you ate something, maybe you got food poisoning, um, maybe you overate something and you had distress in your gut. Um, Maybe you went somewhere and you got a feeling in your gut and you're like, I don't need to go here. Those are all signals that are coming into the body in different ways. And then there's some people who just emotional eat and they stuff all those feelings down. So they don't listen to their gut. They don't trust their gut. And today, if there's anything that I want you to get out of this, it is listening more to your body and how things express. Okay. So, nourishment. Nourish the microbiome. So, microbiome, if that's a new term to you, that just means like the community that lives in your gut. Nourishing that community in the gut, which then in turns nourishes the mind and then the rest of the body. So, a balanced microbiome supports your immune health, it helps reduce inflammation, and it regulates brain chemistry if you're given it the right things. Dysbiosis or an imbalance in that gut bacteria is linked to things such as anxiety, depression, brain fog, all the other things, moodiness. Have you ever met anybody who you're like, dang, please go have a Snickers, Miss Betty White, because, just moody, right? Gut health affects everything systemically. Systemic inflammation, you get headaches, different things like that. Sometimes that's a direct reflection of the gut and how it is showing up and how it's operating. Also, that blood-brain barrier and in the integrity of that blood-brain barrier is directly influenced by your microbiome. So, if your brain isn't healthy, neither are you. And if your gut isn't healthy, neither are you. I suffered for many, many years with gut and intestinal problems and I always thought I had a poor memory, but now I realize that the things I was putting in back to that microbiome, the things I was feeding my microbiome at the time were not conducive to a healthy state of mind. And so everything had to work so much harder, which burdened the other things down the road. So, while I was in the medical field as an ultrasound tech, the biggest thing that always saddened me was when someone had a cholecystectomy. Okay, that is your gallbladder removed. There's so much research now that has came out that shows that the more you or when someone has a part of their body removed, especially when it plays into digestion and how you break down your food, that when that is removed, your risk of developing metabolic syndrome or metabolic syndrome X, if you've ever heard of that. Metabolic syndrome includes different things like fatty liver disease, abdominal obesity, insulin resistance, right? Those are the big things that are packaged into metabolic syndrome. But what it shows is that individuals who undergo this have a much higher likelihood of metabolic syndrome or issues post surgery. And I did pull up some stats, and I want to say that um, 25% of the United States every year, between 500,000 and 800,000 people have a cholecystectomy every single year. Here's the problem that I have. Your doctor does not tell you that, yes, we may remove this today. It was not functioning. We did a fluoro exam and, your cholecystokinin is not working and Nuke Med study and they check this and they say, oh, your gallbladder's only functioning 20%. We need to remove that. Well, 20% is better than nothing. And that was a one-time study. One-time study. They give you these radioactive eggs to eat and or different foods that you can eat. And so they watch you under fluoro and how your gallbladder functions. And so they say, oh, here, you know what's just not functioning good enough, so we need to take it out. Um, they don't tell you that your risk of getting metabolic syndrome goes up dramatically. And I've seen this time after time after time as I scan people in the medical field. And I think it's a disservice to people to just go, you know what, we're just going to remove the source of your pain instead of helping you fix the source of your pain. So, what are some symptoms of a distressed gut-brain axis? Well, some of the things that may be some minor health issues that are starting to, say, hey, we have a problem. We got a problem, such as bloating, fatigue, anxiety, poor sleep, brain fog, mood swings. How about chronic stress or antibiotic use? All of those things damage that community in your microbiome. Those things can then cause gut inflammation, and then those things can trigger different neurological symptoms. So many things that we can talk about in that right there, but that distress that you feel in the gut, sometimes not sleeping well, sometimes having anxiety or just being tired all the time, is tied to what you're putting in your gut, how you're stressing your gut. May taste good, but if you're not feeding it for performance, you're bogging it down. So what are some of the negative effects of a poor gut microbiome? Well, let's think about this. If you end up with leaky gut syndrome, which means your gut and I just want this to be like kind of like just a open discussion, right? Even though you're not on here, think about what we're talking about. If in your gut you have problems, right? The wrong foods can directly cause your gut to inflame and stretch apart. And in that inflammation, you then get gaps in your digestion. So let's say you then take a bite of an apple and you say, I can't eat apples anymore because they hurt my gut. The problem wasn't the apple per se, could have been, but more than likely, it is because you have so much inflammation in the gut that those barriers, that gut-brain barrier, we can talk more on this later, but it is open. So when you eat that apple and it goes and you swallow it and it goes through your stomach and into the intestines, instead of there being nice tight junctions and it just passes through and every little uh, endothelial cell, right? Where one endothelial cell, it takes what it needs in, it's able to then get into the body, and the body starts having these reactions and it starts inflaming because a whole apple should not make it into the body. But if you have that leaky gut or that intestinal permeability issue from the inflammation, it gets in size and causes that. And you can actually read Dr. Uma Naidoo's book, which I have and I can't think of right at this very moment. I'm having some brain fog, I guess. uh, but has to do with your brain and your mood. She has an amazing book, and she is a chef, but she's also a medical doctor. And so she talks about how these different foods cause this, right? They cause this. And so we get this imbalance in our neurotransmitters. So we don't feel good and we're not getting our dopamine and our serotonin's low and the GABA, which affects your mood and cognition as well. It leads, all of these things lead to another. And then when you have this chronic, ongoing, all the time, low grade inflammation, it's then linked to that vagus nerve that runs up and it attaches to all these different things, your heart, right? Your heart rate variability. It specifically, all this inflammation, it doesn't just stay localized in the gut, it goes everywhere else and it messes with the other vessels, that blood-brain barrier. And it gets into the heart, it affects your brain, and it also causes other metabolic issues. It weakens your immune system. 60 to, or 70 to 80% of the immune system live in the gut. Hormonal imbalances, that gut flora affects our estrogen detoxification, thyroid function, and cortisol production. So, if you're a high stress individual and your cortisol is through the roof and it can't balance out, and you can't bring your cortisol down because you don't even know how to relax and you don't sleep well, and you've got all these other things going on, and you just can't regulate because you're already getting bad signals because you fed it the wrong things, it's all going to go into this dysregulation of the whole metabolic field that's going on in your body. So it leads to insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, and obesity. And go back to insulin resistance for just a second. They show that this Alzheimer's, dementia, these brain issues, a lot of them are directly influenced by this insulin resistance, and they call it type 3 diabetes of the brain, right? Not being able to remember it, you can't, if you're not putting the right stuff in, you're hurting your body, you're creating inflammation, you're creating an environment for chronic illness to live. And so this brain degeneration starts happening because that poor gut health, the neurodegenerative disease, the Parkinson's, where things are like short circuiting in there. And then the Alzheimer's, where things just aren't working right. And you might be able to remember your childhood, but you can't remember who you're married to. That's sad. And all of these things tying together, it's why it's so very, very important. It was one of the things that I really wanted to sit with people, because when my gut was bad, I couldn't remember anything. I was angry all the time. I was very short-tempered. And, all those things all play into each other. So, have any of you heard about the Twinkie defense? Here's how incredibly important and how long they've known about this, right? So in 1979, there was actually a murder trial. And during this murder trial, it was Daniel White, okay? And his defense linked his depression and violent behavior to a sudden consumption of ultra-processed foods. And he ate a box of Twinkies and then went and committed murder. And his attorneys were able to get him off because they were able to link directly this ultra-processed food. This was back in 79, okay? I was 2 years old then. Maybe I wasn't born yet. Who knows? But they were able to link the Twinkies and how it processed in the gut to this very violent, outburstish, high sugar, high octane fuel behavior. So, this was kind of a mocked thing where they were like, oh, the Twinkie defense. But it really talked about how to, like, now today's research on this whole gut-brain connection, we know now that it is confirmed that processed food disrupts your gut microbiome or community, however you want to think about it, but it directly affects your impulse control, mood, and how your brain works. Think about that next time you give your kids some Skittles or some M&Ms or something that has different colored dyes. So, what happens in your gut does not stay in your gut. So this Twinkie, defense may have helped Mr. White, get dodge some prison time and stuff like that, but the microbiome wasn't so lucky. So just like in Las Vegas, what happens in Las Vegas doesn't always end up staying in Las Vegas. So what happens in the gut can end up all over your entire life, your energy, your emotions, and even your decision making. So let's explore how to go from crimes of passion and the food choices to peace treaties with your microbiome. So let's talk about actual ways to help your gut feel better and instead of just feeding the chaos and get rid of some of this ultra processed food and the confusion that is causing in the gut because these things are not designed to make us well and healthy. And let's go to fermentation, fiber-rich food, colorful food, and food that love your gut so that we can get your gut to maybe even have a smile for the first time ever. So let's face it, when your gut feels good, you feel good. And I remember one of the first times that I was like, oh my gosh, my gut feels like for the first time, it is actually smiling at me. Like, wow, that's what a good gut feels like. And some of us have never felt that, or it has been years since we've had that feel good, correct balance in the gut. And it sends those good signals up the vagus nerve, up to the brain, to where you can get those positive neurotransmitters and they start transmitting, and probiotics start sending signals. And those postbiotics, which are the chemical signals that go to the brain, butyrate, that can help you think better, perform better, sleep better, and just help you live a better life. I am telling you, the gut is the most important thing. There is nothing else because it's what you put in and how it breaks it down. Because just because you eat healthy doesn't mean that your body can use the things that you put in a good, healthy way. So get ready to start taking these necessary steps to improve your life and your health today. So, what are some of the things that we can do to optimize the gut and brain health? Okay, first is those pre and probiotics, eating fiber and fermented foods such as sauerkraut and kimchi. And here's what I'm going to say, too much of a good thing is never a good thing. If you've been on a junk food diet, I'm going to tell you the only thing I want you to do is just start cooking. Just start cooking your own food. Go to the grocery store and start slow, one meal a week, one meal a day, and start avoiding that bad, ultra processed, refined sugar food and read the labels. We'll talk about that at another time, but sugar is labeled under 140 different names. There's glucose, there's fructose, there's sucrose, there's, all these oses, all these different things, but really at the end of the day, there are some of them that are good for you and majority of them are bad. Once again, whole live food. Cook your food. Get moving, get that exercise. Support your gut diversity by moving your food. A lot of people say, oh, I'm constipated. I only go to the bathroom every 3 days. Move, move your body. That helps move your guts. Manage your stress. Here at Life Force, we use Brain Tap, we use breath work, we use meditation, we use different things to help you unstress. The other thing, a good night's sleep. Not only does this help your brain and your body, but when you are sleeping, that's when you fully repair. That's when your lymphatic system drains, right? It's when things start moving. So if you don't sleep well, first, before you go doing investing in anything, just do proper sleep hygiene. Wear a sleep mask. Get the televisions and screens out of your bedroom. Wear earplugs and use a sound machine. do those things. I used to love the ocean waves. Those were the things I, love so much. Now I love silence and maybe a little bit of, ceiling fan or something like that. But I really love eye mask, earplugs, sound machine. Help me sleep so soundly. Um, so the next thing we want to talk about is becoming your own advocate. If I would have not advocated for my own health, I was on the verge. So I had ulcerative colitis, um, undiagnosed, but that's when you read about all the symptoms, that's what I had. And it was just horrible. And I went through that suffering by myself for many years because I just didn't want to go to the doctors for it. It was embarrassing and I just didn't want to do it. So I had to embrace changing my life. I had to start learning about and advocating for my own health. And I had to learn about food and nutrition and how it impact my entire body, my mood, and because I learned about my genetic issue, my disease expression. So changing your relationship to food, it can be hard, but once you look at what harm it is causing to your long-term health and wellness goes, there's small steps that you can take to change your entire life. And really, my driving force was actually my son, because through watching him suffer and stay there, um, it made me really want to change. And I never wanted my son to be without his mother if I could help it. So just understand you are worth it and nobody's coming to save you. So you must do it for yourself. And it's about taking small incremental steps. It's called Kaizen, making small changes to make big changes. So I want to thank you for listening to this right now because this is the first step. It's just listening to something that helps you change your mind about health and wellness. I didn't know all the things that I know now, and it's very important. So if you're somebody who is like, you know what, there's some things that you said that really helped me to understand a little bit more, and I just don't know what to do. Here at Life Force Wellness Center, we can help you. I'm certified as a life coach. I'm certified as a holistic health practitioner, but we use technology here as our friends. So we have ways to help you. We have evidence-based wellness. So we use technology to help you get the most out of your own physiology. So we use red light therapy, we use sauna, we use vibroacoustics, which is relaxation, and just help change the subconscious programming. So if you're somebody who's like, well, I really would like to change, but I don't even know where to start here. Walk in through the door, give us a call, set up an appointment, do a Zoom. We want to make sure, I want to make sure that there are people out there who are where you were, didn't know anything, because I didn't know. I was strictly medicine. I followed along with my medical doctor, and my son and I both were sicker and sicker. And some people will get better. But I had to take the blinders off and I had to look at all the things that I didn't even know existed and start making those changes. And I had to start making it for myself. So, anyways, this is our number 270-982-4848. You can also find us at lifeforcewellnesscenter.com. And understand sometimes we all need a health advocate. We need somebody who says, you know what? Appreciate the testing that you get done through your medical professional. They're not here to prevent you from having a disease. In fact, that's not their job. Their job is to help you manage the symptoms. That's what allopathic medicine is. But I believe in a whole collaboration, just like with the microbiome. It takes a lot of diversity in the microbiome. There's not just one probiotic or or yeah, probiotic strand that is going to work for everyone. We all have to have all the different strands that all do their jobs differently and they all express differently. So while there's a reason for medicine and for doctors and for different things like that, and the testing that they do, there is a whole plethora of other tests that are available and other people who are educated in other wellness modalities that can help you start taking back your life. Take the blinders off because I know we're marketed to every second of the day by Big Pharma to just trust medicine. And while I say there is a time and place for medicine, there is also a time and place if it's not working and it's not helping you become the best version of yourself possible. Sometimes you need to rip those blinders off, rip those things off, and say, you know what? I've been trying this for long enough. It's not working for me. I need some other perspectives of wellness and health and how I can operate and how my body can express itself in a healthier way. So I hope that you feel my passion through this, that you understand there are so many people, there are so many great people out there who have become naturopathic doctors, who've become chiropractors, who've become dietitians and holistic health professionals who are in it because they have been there, they have suffered for themselves, and they're out there teaching better ways to be, better modalities, better better ways to live. And I just want to convey that because had I not found people along the way who were ahead of me, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. And I enjoy education and researching and understanding that there are two extremes here. It's like the red pill and the blue pill. And if you want to stay the same and you want to go back to the same old people, the same old thing every single day, here in Kentucky, we're number 47 out of 50 states for health outcomes. If you want to stay at the bottom, take the blue pill. But if you're ready to step out and move in a different direction, learn different things, take control of your health and like save yourself, or at least have a hand in your own saving, realizing that nothing is coming to save you except you. And if you have children, the only person who can help your children right now is you. And you better start advocating for them because that cheeseburger that you're eating today and that you gave your kids, it's going to be here in 25 years looking the same exact way. It is not food. Things we put in our body are information. So the things you listen to, the things you see, the things we eat, smell, breathe, all of that is information coming into the body. And if you're not putting in good information, your gut's going to be pissed off at you. Your brain, it's not going to work right. It's not going to function right. And it's not going to do the things that you need it to do when you get older. So there's a thing I like to say that I have heard that I just get it. Is the new wolf today, is the person you are today, are you feeding yourself for the old person you're going to become? The young wolf? Are you feeding the old wolf of tomorrow? Because if you're not setting yourself up for tomorrow for a better version, get ready to be taken for a ride because that medical system that you're trusting to take care of you, it's expensive and it's painful, and they understand how to give you things to maybe take your pain away initially, but as you continue on your path, things continue to break down because you're not putting the right stuff in to feed the body of tomorrow. So I end this today with saying, please put yourself first. You are the most important thing in your life. And if you don't do it, no one will. I hope to see you here at Life Force Wellness Center. You can book an appointment at lifeforcewellnesscenter.com. You can give us a call, 270-982-4848. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram. We're probably on TikTok somewhere. But put yourself first, just this one time, and don't let go. Have a great day.